Hi, and today we're going to do a butterfly watercolor painting. I have several references of butterflies, and if you've been to Selby Gardens or any beautiful garden, I'm familiar with Selby in Sarasota. I'm also very familiar with Bach Tower in Lake Wales. But all these beautiful gardens, and some of you have butterfly gardens, which attract the butterfly. So this is a photo that we could reference, but this is the exact one that I'm going to use. Now, what I've done is I've created a ratio for my watercolor paper. This photo I've cut down to be exactly what I want. So this will be sent to you for a reference. This is 3 inches. This is actually, it's almost 5. It's just short a fraction of an inch on the 5, but I'm stretching that. So what I did with my watercolor paper is that I doubled this. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 5 is 10. So I took my watercolor paper, I measured across for, let me just do it this way. Here is my 2 times 3, 6 inches. Can you see that? And this is my 2 times 5 for 10 inches. I had to draw a little bit of a line, a 1/2 inch over here and a 1/2 inch over here to just have that exact measurement. Now, what I did, this is a simple grid. You can do complicated grids, but this is very simple. I have found the middle of the butterfly image. It's right here. It's a little confusing because it's on the body of the butterfly. So I was able to measure 1/2 of 3 inches is 1.5 inches. Excuse me, 1/2 of 5 is 2.5. That's 2.5. 1/2 of 5 is 2.5. And then going across for my 3 inch, 1.5. And so I made an intersection. You might or might not be able to see this line. It's divided here and it's divided here. So because the ratio of my paper is twice what the size of my photo, I am simply going to divide it also in half. So 1/2 of my 6 is 3. And I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay. Here is my paper. And I'm going to start by simply dividing this in half and this in half. And then I'll have a starting point for the butterfly drawing. This will take a little while to get correct, but 1/2 of 10 is 5. And I do 2 marks, 2 or 3 marks, just so I don't make them real dark marks. I'll then have a correct line. Now, wait a minute. I don't have that quite right. There's my middle. So double check, and I will get that mark right here. And I don't want this, I want to be able to erase this line, so I don't want to make it too dark. So 1/2 of my 6 is 3. 1/2 of my 10 was 2.5. Okay, so 3. So just simply find the center. Remember, I had to take off the 2 sides to make that proportionate to my photograph. Okay, so now I can make this painting correctly or roughly correct from the photograph. And the way I do that is that I only look at what's, here's a little trick. You could fold your photograph and you could only look at what is in this section for that drawing to happen. So if I'm doing that right here, right now, and I lose the tip, so I don't want to lose the tip, but I see this little negative space, and then I get this line drawn all the way down to here, and then I have a little bit of the wing here. Now, drawing the butterfly is requiring that I pay attention to the design of the wing. It's kind of like a stained glass window. and it has multiple parts. All these little white spots will have to be left as you'll have to paint around when you are doing the wing of the butterfly. Now, I don't go into this next section yet. I will be doing that when I refold my photo. Okay, this is a very dark line. So I can indicate that this is, or I could just remember it, and I have my photograph to reference, and I draw the white spots. Now again, this is where the orange stained glass look appears. I love stained glass windows in the churches that of the past and the ones we attend or used to attend, and they are quite beautiful. I have stained glass in my house that Jim and I worked on, and the butterfly wing reminds me of those sections of color, beautiful color. Okay, I'm running out of a little bit of my room because it's overlapping into here, and I just wanted to finish that. Now, I've done this section as I see it. Oh, I guess I better put in my design here. Follow what you see, and this is what I see. We have some more white spots. Okay, so I have finished drawing what I see here. Now I'm going to go to this next spot, and I refold my photograph to pay attention to this. It doesn't look like a butterfly when you fold it like that, but it's going to help you get your design correct. Just trust me on that. And so I have a lot of negative space out here that I'm going to do a wash for the background. And let's see, I think that was probably part of, I'm zoning out, forgive me, because I know I have to put these two pieces together. Oh, I know what all this is. These are little flowers that are popping up in front. These are flower shapes that are in front of the butterfly wing. All right, so I know that these are going to be more little white patterns on the butterfly wing that I have to paint around. Now, there's just the crowning top of that flower, and I don't really know what that is, but I draw what I see. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back to the square. Here, I'll just show you again where I was. Here we are. We have drawn what is in this rectangle. Now, we're going to switch to the bottom. You could go in any order. I just didn't want my hand on top of a drawn part. So I'm going to do this section next. So doesn't look like there's a whole lot, but there's this is very important part. Actually, this is a very important part of the design because it's the body of the butterfly showing up. So here we go. Where this wing must be rather thin. It's kind of in perspective. So it comes about halfway into the square. Actually, it's a little more than halfway. So when I'm looking from here to here, from here to here, I try to do the ratio. When I'm looking from here to here, I try to say, okay, for instance, this leaf would be about right here. It's not at the bottom. It's not in the middle. There are some more of these little flowers. I actually should have made it a little higher. Yes, I really should have made it just a tad higher. I can get away with that though. And there's another flower that's going into the next triangle. And I'm going to now look at the shape of the butterfly head and antennae. And some of these are legs, and I believe this is a leg. it's going into this flower. That's kind of cool. And it has some thickness here, which separates it from, uh-oh, I've suddenly gone into my next little rectangle, so it wasn't quite perfect on that. Lots of white spots in this area. And I have another antennae, or is it a leg? This looks like an antennae. I hope I'm saying that correctly. There's another leg that goes into this space. So do I want to create those little edges? No, I don't. Do I want to put this piece down here? No, I don't. I want to leave that out. So I'm in my last rectangle and I'm going to draw here. So in this rectangle, it's kind of busy. I have two legs, or two, one could be that antennae showing up here inside of this red shape, which I think is the bottom part of a yellow flower. There is a bud and another bud, and then lines. Do I have to make this exactly right? My brain is saying, please don't make me draw all of that. Okay, just some of it. Here, this is dividing a little bit. Let's make something of interest. Two together. And there is this leaf shape. And all of this seems to be, oh, there's some little, okay, there are little guys here. I do not know what this flower is, but it's pretty cool. All right, now I got that. There is, this gets confusing, but follow as best you can the shapes, because then you're going to have a very interesting painting if you do. This, see how it forks here, and then it runs down, and here we have these running off, and we have another leaf, and this leaf goes here, and there's some more of these little red things, and some more of these little shapes. I'm not going to sit and draw all of them for you, but I'll draw a couple of them. You get the idea. Yes, I do want to make this little bud shoot over here. Okay, I have my sketch. Okay, I have my sketch simply by doing the folding. If you are comfortable doing that with a photograph, if you print it, you can do that. Okay, so I'm ready to paint, and I want to start with a butterfly. And the butterfly is going to be that golden orange color with, see the variation here? I think it's because the sunlight is shining through that yellow, which is going to match these little yellow flowers. So just observe your colors. I'm going to do, you know what I liked, I have to confess, it was something about the magic colors in the background of this particular, same butterfly, just a different view. I'm going to probably send both of these to you. I recommend that you keep it simple with your sketch using this one, and remember the ratios to get it drawn. Oh, at this point, don't forget to erase your grid, because if you don't, I don't mind pencil lines in my painting. I really do not, ever. I never mind seeing my sketch through the watercolor paint, but I do not want people to see grid lines. That's not good, because it would distract, and then people would know your secret, right? Okay, I'm going to do the orange first. So I have to remind myself what's first, what's second. So if you can see my palette, I'm using this bright bumblebee or lemon yellow. So I start with a yellow, and I want, you know, you could put a little red, a little bit of your rose madder, and get your orange, or you could cheat and just use an orange if you have it. Okay, so I'm starting with a nice bright, and then I want that orange ready. Okay, so my brush has a little bit of orange already on it when I start for, now I can go ahead and do I just don't want to go over any white. Oh, you know what? This goes, somehow I didn't quite finish the sketch. That's got a dark line there. Okay. Now I am talking to myself. Wow. Okay. I'm going to go the black over this, so it doesn't matter. I just don't want to put it over any whites, which looks like I kind of did right there. I may have to fudge. Now the orange that's up here is a brighter orange, and I want to go with that little bit of, well, this is the brighter color here. Remember, I'm going to let this dry and put the black lines over the butterfly. So just don't cover up any white dots. I'm looking like I missed a few things in the sketch, but you just examine your own photograph, and I don't think anybody's going to really notice if I leave out one little section. Oh, and these are not as bright an orange up here. They're more of a brown, but I think I don't want to deviate too much. I think I like the fact that that orange is there. Anyway, we'll be able to recognize our butterfly, the monarch, right? Since I've got my nice yellows, why don't I go ahead and suggest my little yellow flowers where they are. So there, it looks like they're overlapping. I want to give them a little variation here. So this looks like the flower rather than the wing. So I added that little bit of red because they are orange and they also are in shadow, which will make them a little different in color. Now there are some variations on these flowers that we'll add once that's dry, but that gets us started, right? I am thinking my next step might be to go ahead with my green stems. I'm kind of leaving the background and then the detail for last, which sometimes it's nice to go ahead and put the background in. The green leaves, I will use my standby Skips Green, which is here. If you can see that Skips Green. And I have a little bit of Windsor Green here, which I can use with some red to make the darker color. And these greens have a lot of white on them, I think. Light, but not so much, it isn't so much whiter yet. It's not so much yellow. Okay, so to see what I see, I'm going to go dark against this line right here. And now that I'm really looking at the whole picture, I'll do a few little strokes with my brush. I see that this leaf really continues. I don't have my pencil line for it, but oh well, I can always grab a pencil and sketch. If that leaf is going back behind here, it has to have an ending. So I'm going to let it end here. And there really is another green leaf here, which adds to the fullness. Since I left the fern out, and you're welcome to put that fern in if you want to. Now that I have that started, I think I'll use the flat brush and just drag that up. It's got the hint of the green on the brush now. And I'm going to come back with my strokes and finish the edge. And I'm painting negatively around the stems of these flowers. Even though they're going to be green, I want there to be a difference. And this one, this side has also the same kind of, I need to get that going in the right direction. It's very light. So to make that, I need to lighten this one, wet it real quickly. I need to drag the light green down, bring in, I'm going back to that same color and putting in those little dark strokes that I see. And I want this to go darker in the background because simply it would be shadowed when it goes back behind all this stuff. And this is still wet, so I can do those lines again. Yeah, that kind of did the trick, I think. Keeping it light here. Now, I did see this little bit of the leaf going there and there. And this leaf is, I guess I need to finish. I'm not sure where that leaf ends, but I wanted a little more thickness through here. And I think that line will be the indication. So I'm making that leaf a little bit like this one. Sorry, I didn't mean to get so tedious here. But anytime you're doing leaves, you have to look for the lights and the darks. And when they go behind things, they're obviously going to get darker. So for instance, here we see whatever is going on, it gets a little darker here. I stick that purple, always stick that purple or red in my green to get a darker green. And it's not exactly the way it is, but it's close enough. I like to see that dark show up, and I like to paint next to, like this stem is actually dark on top of this light. So I'm not sure why I'm making this so dark and worrying about it, but let's call that good enough for now. Okay, so it has an indication of those leaves in the background. See, these two leaves. All right, so I'm going to now do that duller. So I put the purple in with my green. That's that Windsor. And I get a dark green. And I'm going to paint this stem. And I like to always figure out what side is the darkest side. And usually it's the bottom. And I've got more, but let's use another little round brush. I keep my round brushes handy. This needs to be just filled in, and it always gets a little, keeps the dark on the dark side for your shadow, but really blends in. Now it seems to fade a little bit, so don't be afraid to kind of go back and add that dark line one more time. It will pop whatever it's painted behind. And I like the way that did, so I'm going to leave it. I think the line even ends up down here. Okay, these are also dark. Our other little stems. I'm getting distracted, obviously, working on this lower part, but wherever your attention is okay to go to. You know, what I'm also doing is giving the butterfly a chance to dry the color that I laid down, because I certainly don't want to put in my black until that is nice and dry. Okay, so while I'm at it, let's go ahead and put in those other little leaves here. And I see that these are much more yellow-green. I can use that skip green with a little bit of this yellow, definitely. Get these, this one anyway has some light green. It does get darker going through here. So, oh, you know what I forgot? Forgot to finish painting these stems on the tops where they can go from light to dark. All right, just by adding a little bit of that yellow green didn't hurt that one bit. I think that's all right. Now, so here we are with this green. And I'm following the contour. And what I see now is I'm going to go back to the darker. And while that's still very wet, I lay in this darker color and we get that nice little variation to the light dark, light into dark. Actually, it's not quite. I just took my finger and dragged it across so I could keep it from getting too dark. Now I've muddied the water here a little bit. I need to let that rest. Okay, so this one is a darker color. So I'm going to go back to my Winsor with a little bit of purple and get that nice dark and just paint that as I see it. Does it have any light? Maybe. I'm going around these little red balls. You know, I do see a little line in here to indicate the stem of this. I'm just going to keep it dark because we've got a lot little detail going on down here. Well, where we want our eye to go is on the butterfly, not down here. Of course, this red is going to pop and add to our orange color. All right. I just thought I'd throw in a little more dark here and there. And I think for now, pretty well done with the green that we were looking at. So let's see. I feel like doing the little red flowers. Maybe. Okay, the red is a bright red. The red is a very much a cadmium red. And these little flower buds, or whatever they are, somebody's going to be able to tell me what this flower is. And these are like little flaming shapes, which is very nice. I can get a little tip going here. And I probably will have to, just like with my flower, I will have to go and give it a little more depth. It's not just one coat, but this is very bright. I like that, and I need to get brighter. And I may have to darken like I did with doing the apples. We had to put some shadows in. And I'm going to go right across here for this. And this also is that red shape that accentuates, kind of like these flowers are taking flight. They have wings just like the butterfly. And I'm sure it's the color that attracted the butterfly in the first place. How gorgeous, whatever it is. And now I'm really going to have to be sure my painting is dry before I put in this background. So I'll do a little bit of the background to show you. Oh, I have to darken up here and leave this one light because the sun is hitting here. It's very important to, well, I've got some stems in here that I didn't draw. I'm sure we'll just stick a line in there for now so I don't forget. And there's some nice contrast against this flower shape. So bring that out. And I thought I would show the dark that's going around that and this. All right. That has to be a light, and I'm going to go ahead and put some dark on this one. And I want to soften that up, and I want to add that light. Okay. Now, these little balls can be the cad, and it's almost pink at the tops. So if I do all the tops very light, they're like berries, just add that little bit of light pink to every one of them because the sun is hitting them. So each one is getting a little bit of color. And then we'll come back with the darks. Again, I'll use that same, oh my goodness, rose madder. I had a little purple here. I could use a little bit of the blue. I want to get it dark, but I don't want it to be purple. I just want a dark red. I could almost do an intermediate, like another coat of red before I put that real dark in. Let's see here. A coat of red, and that will distinguish. I have to look at, some of these are getting too harsh. So this one's working because it's blending. And maybe we'll keep these a little fuzzy down here at the bottom anyway. Yes. Those are too harsh. So what I'll do is I'll just take a little bit of water on my brush and soften the feeling of the color going one to the next, keeping that pink on top, and probably adding just a little more dark. Oh, I forgot to do a few of those. Okay. Well, the subject here was butterfly, and we haven't really gotten to the butterfly, have we? But this is the stage, the props that make the butterfly work, is having its little place to perch. And of course, it could be other flowers. So I think you can see how I've kept the light on top, and I want to get a little darker with the shadows. And sometimes this takes 2 or 3 layers just to get there. But a little bit of that darker purple with a little blue mixed in will do the trick. And anytime one little flower is or bud or whatever these are, berry, they look like berries, don't they? Goes on top, if one goes on top of another, then there's going to be a contrast where the dark goes right behind. I need to soften this one. Actually, that one's almost in shadow completely. So darken these up, and don't lose your shape. I'm about to lose my shape on a couple of these. We really need to keep that form. It needs to still read as if they're attached to a stem and part of a group. I don't need the white there, so I needed to get rid of that white. I darkened that one up and just lost all the white that was in there. Okay, and I think we're close enough. Might do a little touch up, but that's good enough for me. Now, I'm going to mix a black for the butterfly. And the black will be burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue. Again, we make our dark with dark colors. And we do not have a black in your palette. You don't want a black and you don't want a white. You want to use the white of the paper always for the white, and you want to have for your dark a really dark color. So this dark to me is close enough to a black. I might actually put a little purple or a little more blue because I don't want it to say brown. I really want it to be, well, now I've got too much purple. So it's kind of like cutting your hair. Be careful. You might end up with a bigger puddle than you actually need, just trying to get the color right, but that's okay. I'm getting there. It's too purple, maybe the brown. Now it's too brown. Now more blue. Oh, yes, there we go. Until you get it right. Okay, this is my dark. Still a little bit purple. More blue is changing that. Boy, now that's pretty darn dark. I'm going to be happy with this. Okay, so this wing was really going off of the page for my composition, which I don't mind. I don't mind one bit. Well, here I am sticking behind. When I mat this, I'm going to cover it up. So it's all right that I overlap my line just a little bit. Now this does have a white spot. So how you capture the white spot is just by painting around. If you lose a white spot here and there, don't worry. You'll have other white spots. This one's going to be a brown spot because I didn't leave the white there. And remember, this is like a stained glass window. I'm drawing where my lines are, but I'm also checking myself with a photograph. I want this to be correct with my image that I'm referencing. And okay, this has more white spots. And this edge, I must confess, is a little bumpy. So I think it's the laciness of the butterfly wing. So I don't see the white spots right here. So I'll finish with that. I'll add this line. Looks like it's doing that. And I'll add this line. Okay, now I'm back to the body and where the second wing is coming up. And I'm just drawing with my lines of my watercolor brush and completing that wing, and now going in. And you can always put more if you cover up one by accident, don't worry. There's more little spots up here that I have to keep. I got my paper a little bit dirty, but I don't think it's going to matter when I put in. You could leave the background, but I think this one kind of calls for a sky or something that's blurry, and that's why I liked the other photograph that I had. And I want to put in that suggested something interesting right here. I see a little fogginess. Do I want to deal with that now or later? What I see is a change here. So I just drop a little color there. That looked more realistic to what's going on. And I also see it down here. Okay, keep going. It's a good thing I made this dark as much as I did, because okay, sometimes I have to place my finger where I am in the photo. Let's see here. Can we see that tip? Sorry. I'm painting here and you can't see what I'm doing. My apologies. I get kind of caught up, to tell you the honest truth, and forget that I'm teaching and not just having fun. Oh, it's nice to have fun at the same time. I see this little edge as being very scalloped. So I'm going to be sure I include that and catch these little spots at the same time. Boy, you might really have to have no distraction. I see a little heart shape. Now, isn't that sweet? That is a little heart-shaped white spot. I just couldn't help myself there. Sometimes it's fun to hide something in your watercolor painting that people go, oh, look, there's a little heart shape in there. This is pretty dark. Matter of fact, I'm going to move that white spot down, and there's, I made that spot a little smaller in both cases, and this one very oval. And these are ghosty here. Maybe they're sideways. Okay, look how black that looks, and very nice and bold. And I do want this to dry before.
Faith can't see what you're thinking.
Okay, all right. Hopefully you can see. Apologies for not showing you the top of that as I work. Again, I just get caught up. Let's see. I want this edge. That's what I was going to say. I want this edge to be dry before I do the background. So I'm going to quickly do the edge of this. Again, it's scalloped. And then this will dry. My brush got a little bit dry, speaking of dry. And again, it's wavy and goes behind this flower. And now I'm capturing my little white spots. And at the same time, wow. I better go back up here where I know what I'm doing. And again, I just put my finger on the photo so that I know, okay, I'm right here. And I put in that line and I put in the next line. It again, you just, that's why the grid really does help you with getting this kind of drawing done. Butterflies are easier if you flatten them out, but we're doing this one as it would light on a flower. And then it is what we see. So that's what we're trying to do, is paint from that perspective. I have to be careful. I got some paint on the edge of my hand, and if I continue to place that on my paper, I'm going to make a mess. So sometimes if you just lay a paper towel down to rest your hand on, you can avoid dirtying an area you really would like to keep clean. Okay, I'm forgetting where I am, and I am right here, and I need to capture some more white spots. And wow, you wouldn't think it's that complicated, but it sort of is. Lots of white spots. I'm going to get down here and finish this body. It looks like it's just a little black blob, but it does have white spots. Again, you just have to paint around a bunch of little, if you have your pencil line drawn, it helps. If you're trying to remember to do it, you'll miss out. And although I've covered up a few, I've added a few. Okay, so there's my funny looking body. Now I'll go back into here, and I am afraid that I left out a little orange spot, which should appear here. See how it's white there, but it should be an orange spot. So I'll show you how to take care of that in just a second. Okay, so we're back up here with some more oval round spots. And finishing up this grid, it's like branches of a tree. I think this should be like that, and this should be like that, and this should be like this. I think I messed up on my design just a little bit, but the butterfly doesn't know, and if you won't tell, this goes, well, I think I'm about right, close enough. This gets darker in here, and these lines too are going back behind. Okay, so there's the end of the butterfly. We still have to do, I need to darken some of this. And we're going to do the legs in the background, do a little more touch up, and we are done with our butterfly in the garden. Here, it does need more dark. It seems to be gray at the moment instead. And I have some pencil lines there that shouldn't be there. And there, much darker. It helps. And maybe I didn't make enough paint. I believe I did. This all needs to get darker. It seems to have dried a light gray, a middle or dark gray. And I really do want it to look dark. Here is that leg. Looks like I left a leg out. How many legs does a butterfly have? Oh my gosh. I'm going to add this one because I don't see it. Now this one, it goes across like that. And it's the thicker one. I know this is a leg. I know it has a better name, but maybe it is a leg. It has kind of an interesting joint and antennae. If I hadn't taken this photograph, I would really question how many of these appenditures you have here. All right, for this line, I don't want to put my hand on top of that. And I was trying to make it rather thin, and I certainly got a little thick right there. I'm going to thicken this one, and I'm going to thicken here and here just a little bit, where I see it thicker. And be careful. I hate it I got quite that thick right there. It should have remained fairly thin. I'm putting a few darks in with this black to really pop the underside and the joining of the stems. I think you will see that it helps to put those dark spots in. I wasn't really sure how that flower was shaping up, but that did help it. And a little bit of shadow to these flowers. And this will need an orange shadow. Just lift, and just because some of it's in light, some of it's in shadow, we want them to look like the flower. Now I needed to pop that color here, and I wanted to change a little bit the coloration that's going on here. And because these are more in shadow behind the flower, I darken those, and I'm going to come back and darken a little here one more time and soften the edges here and here to finish up the butterfly. I'm not sure why that did that. I probably need to redraw right here a little bit more. Uh-oh, that's still wet. So I'll put a little more color in this section. Yes. Okay. I think my butterfly and I think the flowers are finished, and I want to do the background next. I'm hoping everything is dry enough to do the background. What we'll do is we'll use the Grumbacher 1-inch brush. If you are working larger than the small sheet that I'm working on, oh, it still has a little blue on it already. That's great. Now remember, I was going to use the inspiration of what's happening in this photograph. So as I look at it, there is blue. It's kind of like the sky. Please don't start this background until you know for a fact that your butterfly is completely dry. I might leave a little halo around this piece. And I certainly don't want to put that in with the legs right now. Matter of fact, if I'd had enough sense, I probably, before I painted the legs, I would have put this background in first. I mean, I could paint the whole picture and then do the black lines of the legs. But I felt like I needed to paint the painting pretty much in its entirety before I put in the background. Now, even though I haven't gone in all these little spots, I can use my little brush for that. Here's what I'm going to do for the background. I'm going to use a cerulean blue. I need to clean my palette, but I'm going to work with what I've got here. And this is bright. a little too bright right there. And that's nice though. Then I'm going to put in some pinks and browns. So I want it to fade and look like, I don't know, something atmospheric, something like nature is out there, but I want to get dark down toward the bottom. So you know the black that we were using, if that filters up into the blue, and just, you know, what I have to do and what I have to be very careful about is switch at some point and get your edges. Now that has a little bit of that butterfly brown, which is nice. And I'm going with that with a little bit of color. Actually, I see pink. I see some pink in there. And this is just going to look like a blurred kind of background. Keeping it light though, right here is going to make this more of a focal point. So far, this is looking pretty good, what I want, and I am able to work around that antenna, so I'm okay with that. And I don't want this little white spot, so I'm lifting the paint and softening it like there. I don't want that. Well, that's kind of working. I don't know if I need a whole lot more. I do need to, if I have a color over here, I do need to repeat it. And because I have these pink flowers, and I don't want to muddy this, so it's looking pretty good. I think I'll stop. Yes, I think I'll stop. So voila, the background was really kind of fun and quick and easy. So with that, I hope that here I am. That was kind of fun. A little nerve-wracking getting those lines straight on the butterfly, but that was fun. Now drawing is going to take you a while, so take your time, but be sure your proportion is correct. And just remember about the grid, and we'll talk about it more when you're getting ready to do it if you have questions, but happy painting.